Brett Kavanaugh, seen here getting his photo taken at the mall, is being vetted for a spot on the Supreme Court. And it's no surprise that he was Trump's top pick.
There's a big concern for critics of Brett Kavanaugh. Trump might have picked him because he believes a president can't be indicted.
A 1999 magazine article quotes Kavanaugh suggesting that the 1974 unanimous Supreme Court ruling that pushed former President Richard Nixon to turn over the Watergate tapes may have been wrongly decided.
I guess we should just count our blessings that he didn't get his first choice, Putin in a wig. Of course, Trump gets to pick the justice who will eventually hear his case, and he found a guy who doesn't think presidents should be indicted. That's like if I got to appoint the head of the Emmys committee. I'd pick my dog. I already know he thinks I'm a good girl. It matters whether Kavanaugh thinks Richard Nixon was shafted in Watergate, because our next justice may face some similar decisions about water sportsgate. But is what we're living through like Watergate, or is it definitely way uglier? Tonight, I'm investigating in a segment we're calling, Is This Watergate All Over Again? Oh my God, is it worse? Wait, what was Watergate again? A full frontal investigation. Much like the Russia scandal, Watergate happened because of a presidential election. Nixon really wanted to win re-election in 1972. To seal the deal, he wanted dirt on his political opponent, even if it came via illegal channels. But don't worry, he didn't turn to the nearest strongman. That would be insane.
5 men wearing white gloves and carrying cameras were caught early today in the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee in Washington. A man arrested trying to bug the offices of the Democratic National Committee in Washington turns out to be an employee of President Richard Nixon's re-election campaign committee.
It's so weird to watch people just say the news without any spin or contorted attempt at balance. Can you imagine if Trump had done Watergate in 2016? The headlines would have looked more like, did Hillary's emails provoke Watergate break-in? Or Trump creates jobs for forgotten white burgling class? Or Donald Jr. found stuck in Watergate laundry chute? Oh, actually, that one happened last week. Someone told him there was the 3 Musketeers at the bottom. Unfortunately for Nixon, the perpetrators of the break-in weren't exactly geniuses, so it didn't take long before it was traced back to Nixon's campaign. The main question was,
what did the president know, and when did he know it?
Whereas now the question is more like, what did the president know, and does he still know it, or did he clear out that brain space to daydream about if cheeseburgers had tits? Oh, hello, is there a Mr. Cheeseburger Tits? Obviously, bitch was in on the cover-up big time. Nixon paid hush money, offered political favors, and pressured the CIA to end the FBI investigation. And he did his best to paint the scandal as a partisan media obsession. Hey, that's Trump's move too!
I have never heard or seen such outrageous, vicious, distorted reporting in 27 years of public life.
Our biggest obstacle is the press. They're so dishonest.
I want it clearly understood that from now on, ever, no reporter from the Washington Post is ever to be in the White House.
He tweeted this morning, just moments ago, the coverage about me in the New York Times and the Washington Post has been so false and angry.
I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are.
And also, never forget, the press is the enemy. The press is the enemy. The press is the enemy. Write that in the blackboard 100 times and never forget it.
You know, writing something on a blackboard 100 times works. That's how I willed myself to stop getting my period. Anything is possible, mostly. For a long time, Nixon's strategies worked. Besides, he argued, even if he was guilty of something, well, I mean, how should I put this?
Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal.
To be fair, that is in the Constitution, right between the 5-second rule and no takesy-backsies. 40 years later, Nixon's spiritual descendant wasn't quite as articulate.
The president is tweeting today that he is above the law. I have the absolute right to pardon myself, but why would I do that when I have done nothing wrong?
Oh my God, why did you have to become our president? Why couldn't you just open up a chain of cheeseburger tit restaurants in Azerbaijan? Of course, Nixon turned out to be wrong. His misdeeds could and did end his presidency, but that doesn't mean Trump is headed for the same fate. These days, Republicans and Democrats talk about Watergate like Nixon's eventual downfall was inevitable, but it wasn't. Even during Watergate, Nixon had many fervent supporters, a strong base, if you will, who defended him up until the very last moment.
Well, I don't blame the president. I think his associates fooled him quite a bit. Well, I think they're dragging it out too much.
Well, I vote for Nixon every time he's got in the office, and I think I'll go all the way with him.
Sir, your mustache is missing. How can you think about Nixon at a time like this? There was a lot that needed to go down in order for Nixon to suffer consequences, most of which would not be possible today. I know it's hard to imagine, but back then, Republicans actually stood up to the leader of their party. Republican senators went to Nixon and told him that they no longer supported him and he needed to resign. Today's Republicans didn't criticize Trump's performance in Helsinki until they got scolded by John Kelly. Hey, it doesn't count as brave if Daddy said you could, guys. I would not wait for a sudden swell of courage from these dudes. It's not like Devin Nunes would own up to obstructing justice when I doubt he's ever fucking owned up to obstructing a toilet. Don't go in there, Paul. Actually, you suck. You go in there. Behold what Devin Nunes wrought. And we certainly can't count on the Supreme Court riding Trump's ass like they rode Nixon's, not with Brett here about to join their ranks. Look, I'm sorry. Politics aside, there should not be a Supreme Court justice named Brett. The only court a Brett belongs in is a food court. I rule that these French fries are rad. The real reason that Nixon had to resign was there was too much proof, and proof actually mattered. The minute there was a tape that proved Nixon's guilt, it was all over. But if you'll recall, Trump already confessed to a crime on tape and no one cared. In fact, Trump incriminates himself on tape all the time. A tape revealing that he paid off his mistress came out yesterday. Probably a worse tape will come out tomorrow and it won't matter. A lot of that is thanks to Fox News, which is maybe the biggest difference between scandal now and scandal back then. We'll never know if Nixon would have fared differently if he'd had his own propaganda beast churning 24/7 to protect him, but Roger Ailes sure thought so. In fact, he and other Nixon aides dreamt up Fox News as a way to deliver pro-administration stories to viewers nationwide. I mean, I personally wouldn't recommend committing a crime without a support system like this.
Mueller's runaway witch hunt.
This endless investigation has been going on for far too long.
The left is not yet ready to give up on their beloved witch hunt.
There is a cleansing needed in our FBI and Department of Justice.
They cooked up this Russian meddling collusion thing, and they tried to blame it on Trump.
No wonder collusion's in the air. It's made out of nothing.
Shout out to all the associate producers at Fox News who were too scared to tell Greg Gutfeld that air is not made out of nothing. So, will Trump go down like Nixon did? Don't count on it. Even if Trump is guilty of stuff other than the felonies he's already admitted to, we've systematically torn down every journalistic and political convention that kept Nixon accountable. Now, instead of conventions or even convictions, we have this. So don't hold your breath for impeachment, guys. We would need Republicans to stand up, and Nixon staffers have spent the last 20 years making sure that won't happen again. The only way we're getting rid of Trump before his term is up is if he decides to go all in on that Titburger franchise.